Hi everyone, welcome to 2030. My name is Philipp. I'm now 50 years old, so 10 years older due to the time travel. And I have transformed 2 million people. So I did a lot of trainings. So my sister and I, we have this tiny consultancy that has grown exponentially in terms of projects. Above my bed, when I wake up, there's an LED sign that says it was all a dream, because sometimes I really, this is like when I go to customers, I'm giving autograms, I'm giving signatures to the people on their shirts and stuff. And I'm really, sometimes I'm like, wow, that's a thin line, right? To be authentic and to have fun, but also to deliver. And I think right now my company is doing quite well, and I hope it will do tomorrow also quite well. The very first thing you do after you did your time travel, right? You ask, what has happened? And I will share some information from my company, like some neutralized stuff, so you can see, what's going on, what the companies have done in the last 10 years to go in the lead, but I will also give you a little update on what has happened in the world. For most, the most important thing is very often we ask ourselves, like, what should I eat? What should I do? But no one really asks, what should I think? And I want to sensitize you for your neural shopping cart up here between your ears. It's very important to question yourself what to believe and what to think. And also, I'm just providing you a certain flying sushi, of thoughts and solutions, and you can decide what to take and what not to take. You can only show people what they're ready for. So please open up yourself, even when you decide very consciously what to take and what not to take. Because right now we're living in an era where a lot of people judging on the whole complex world. Donald Trump, for example. Just to make an example. People that know in this complex world immediately what's right or what's wrong. I personally believe intelligence diffuses will. The more I know, the more I can change my perspective and look at things from different angles, the harder it becomes to make a judgment. And I really want to sensitize you for this. Intelligence diffuses will. So let's have a look. In 2030, what has happened? First, we're not using rockets yet to fly across the globe, but we have become a multiplanetary species. And that's an important step, because we have a population of 8.5 billion people on Earth right now. Earth can only shelter with its natural resources 1 billion people. With the smart agriculture that we did, we shelter these 8.5 billion people. And now we also shelter from Earth a dozen of people on Mars. Mars is actually quite a resource-rich planet, and it's not too far away, and it has decent sunlight. But of course it comes with challenges, because the gravity on Mars is just 38%. But it also changes our body. It makes our heart grow, because our heart has to pump the blood into the veins and has to soak it up again, right? And less gravity demands a stronger heart. So people are changing that live on Mars. And also there's this problem with radiation, right? There's much more radiation due to the thinner atmosphere. There is actually an atmosphere, with CO2 and nitrogen and argon, but we have to compress it in order to have a livable atmosphere. So how can we do this on Mars? And this is where scientists are right now. Okay, we reached it to Mars. How can we make it livable there? Because terraforming is a tough thing, right? Terraforming is not within reach. With Earth scrapers. So this takes us back all the way to the time where we come from, as cavemen. We lived in caves before, right? And this is a solution the scientists are looking in right now on Mars. And also this protects us from the cosmic radiation. This is something people could feel cozy with. Yeah? We could plant trees there, we could grow food in there, have the right humidity, and we could use the daylight as well. Whenever there's a new business, whenever there's a new movement, whenever there's something going on in the world, there are a few companies that are very fast and jumping on that wave. One company that is very fast in doing that is Amazon. Because Amazon has founded 14 years ago, guys. So I'm going back to 2016. In 2016, Amazon has started a space segment. And now, of course, Amazon, Jeff Bezos is a space junkie, we all know that, right? And whether on Earth or in space, Amazon is committed to understand customers' desire. They are last mile experts on Earth, and they're mile experts now in space. And they have tons of data. Well, what happened on Earth in the meantime? Well, a lot of stuff has happened, my friends, because we have a relentless competition right now. Economies have shifted. The greatest economy on Earth is no longer the greatest economy. USA was falling behind in third position. Right now we have China in position number 1, we have India in position number 2, and for example, the last European economy that is still in the top 10 is Germany, and they made it to number 10. They have been overtaken by Japan, by Russia, by Egypt, by Brazil, and by Turkey. It's so important that nations have to invest now massively on innovation. And Europe has to do much more in order to be in the lead. I mean, 10 years ago, right, this was not an issue. We all had double-digit growth rates, we did well. In Germany, for example, just 10 years ago, the gross profit in Germany of all companies was 543 billion. So let's say 550 billion. Guess what was the invest? 20 billion. 20 billion out of 543 have been invested. And Germany is a representative for all other countries. The same has been done in France, in Portugal, in Spain, in Switzerland, in UK, and so on. This is a European issue that we have since quite a while. And what we're experiencing right now, we have much more innovation and much more attention on Asia. Why? Well, because a lot of people are living there. You can see this on the graphs here. The graphs show the population of the region. You can hardly see the coastlines of graph if you look to United States or if you look to Europe, for example. But you can see the coastlines of India. You can see the coastlines of China. This is where the people are living. And China wants to be now the world football superpower. They want to win the World Cup. And guess what? The president, Xi Jinping, it's still in charge, of course, has 20,000 football training centers. 20,000. And he has them since 10 years. What else has changed? Well, it's getting warmer. The climate change is at full speed. We all know that we have blown up the Paris Agreement like 10 years ago. Every one of us has a share in this because a lot of people have been eating meat, a lot of people have been doing vacation in an extraordinary way, and of course companies have not shifted fast. But now we have something new on the radar which we didn't think of 10 years ago, because we have water crisis. Water crisis of course in an unstable region. And also that is nothing new. Just a decade ago, this was already on the Water Risk Atlas. This is, and this is something, I think, if we humans have learned something in the last 10 years, there's knowledge and there's behavior. And very often, knowledge and behaviors are two totally different things. People have, they know that something is going on, but they behave different. And this is something we have learned in the last 10 years. To transfer, this is a job everyone has to do by himself, to transfer knowledge into a certain behavior. What else? Well, also 10 years ago, Europe has began to build a wall. It's not just Donald Trump that announced that in 2016. It's always easy, to find someone that we can talk about. Whenever we hear wall, right, we think like, right, 2016, Donald Trump used this, like in his campaign. But in 2020, Europe has built 1,000 kilometers of wall. And of course, more countries were signing up and more countries, and we're now up to 10,000 kilometers of walls. And we have an issue, and that issue is called immigration. People coming to Europe, a lot of people that facing crisis all over the world. But the issue that we got in Europe right now is that the smart, highly qualified workers leaving Europe. Also, nothing new to us. 10 years ago, for example, 200,000 employees were leaving their home country in European Union. Per country. This is an issue that is 10 years old. The smart people are leaving. It's harder to get the employees. And there are other people coming that need to be educated. Of course, there are jobs. but not jobs for those peoples. Something, of course, we all expected. Greta maintains her lead over the current prime minister, and she challenges him, right? With addressing environmental themes to United Nations. Who would have thought that? Just 10 years ago. Also, we see, I would say, due to the relentless global competition and to avoid falling behind in key industry, many companies are merging. Many companies are building a house of brands. And we have now big Pharma, Pfizer, and Novartis. And the tech companies, former car makers, they're no car makers anymore. They're earning their money now with data and mobility, not with selling cars. Daimler and BMW have merged. And maybe that's the last defense battle against the US threat. I think we can all agree that in the last decade, many businesses, many products have changed beyond recognition. And that is something that is so important. You know, the nature of organization has moved beyond factory and processes. The future is owned by organizations that understand and master the relationship between knowledge, leadership, and providing service. That's a very important line, what I just said, and I will hammer on this line now in the next slides. And I think we can all agree. In 2019, not a single person got the answer correct. Where do you see yourself in 1 year from now? And of course, no one got the answer correct. Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? And this is what I said in the beginning, and this is something very important. Please take this information, that's important. People have the courage to judge on everything with an incredible decision-making security. They like, they dislike, there's no in between. Somehow we always think, well, if I would have known that yesterday. But everything around us, my friends, is happening in an absolutely inconsistent world. Everything we do is facing an unpredictable environment here. We don't know what happens next, but we know the ones who adapt will be the ones who leads. And that's the secret of our evolution. If we're looking back to COVID-19, we have learned to deal with the pandemic, right? Just like the Asians did 20 years ago, because they had pandemics. And frankly, today most have forgotten about it. Just like the Spanish flu. If we take the Spanish flu as an example, in 1980 to 1920, 5% of the world's population has died. And if we compare this to today's population, this would be 400 million deaf people. And the Spanish flu, it had no impact on values, it had no impact on behaviors, and it had no impact on politics. And COVID-19 back then was a threat to our parents and grandparents, and the whole world, right, escalated. And a lot of companies made a lot of money. A lot of companies lost a lot of money. But the rising digitalization, and especially the environmental consequences that come with it, are threatening grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So this is further away. And we humans have somehow something inside to focus on current drama. There's something inside us that always focuses on the current drama. When there's something further away, oh, I worry about it tomorrow. And that's, my friends, our brain is a problem solver. We want problems. We create problems. And I think most of you have already figured that out. We always find something to worry about. The happiest person on earth lives in a super villa, has a beautiful family, nice kids, nice boss, but still has problems to worry about. We are problem solvers. And that's so important to see that. Looking back, not a lot has changed, right? Nurses in Europe are still earning 30,000 euros, while nurses in USA earn triple. For most, COVID-19 was a structural crisis for individuals and for companies. Yeah? For example, the hardcore online meeting deniers had to go online. The hardcore office companies had to do home office. One thing COVID-19 has taught us is that the binding power of the church is declining. And everyone is coming up with their own metaphysical universe, conspiracy theories, whatever. The internet has become a fire booster, and in this time of self-gratification. And the constant in our human's history is every one of us wants to be part of a special group. Everyone wants to share knowledge and kind of like, look what I know. Look, this is, please be honest with yourself. We all want that, right? But it's so important that we see this little malfunction in us and see we always want to be in that special group to understand how our mechanics. Because while we lost a lot of time, we're right now in a huge transition to a completely new system of work, of business and of society. In 2017/18, two institutions came up, the Oxford study and the Bertelsmann study. And they have back then already said, hey guys, in 2050, so this is just in 20 years from now, that's not that far away. 10 years ago was COVID-19. You guys will remember that, right? In 20 years from now, we will have a global unemployment between 25 and 50%. And we all are witnessing right now that people are leaving from Europe. And new people are coming to Europe. But the business is moving on. China is moving on. India is moving on. These are superpowers that are leading the world right now. This is something we didn't have in our little universe here 10 years ago. And it's so important that we understand there will be a lot of work in the future, but not for some people, especially for the ones that have lost their job. Remember 21 billion gap, the 21 billion gap we had in Germany, for example, 10 years ago. Yeah, this has been rising exponentially. 10 years ago, 3 out of 4 employees felt already overwhelmed with data at work. And I think this is something we all have to understand, that the platform capitalism is not stopping. Platform capitalism is enabling customers to run their own business. And the very first symptoms were Uber, Airbnb, and eBay. Now we have much more symptoms out there. Knowledge work will be soon entirely independent of location. And in all that thunderstorm, there's still one branch, there's still one industry that is still quite calm. And it is the pharma industry. So I take here, for example, just one European market as an example. You can see this on this beautiful animation. Pharma is doing well and well and well. Of course, also boosted by COVID-19. It's very stable in this very unpredictable world. So the world development is fast, but in pharma, little has changed in the last decade, right? And this number is just, you can take this number on literally every pharma market. Pharma is right now the cash cow on the market. And of course, other companies have joined. 10 years ago, new players have just entered the game. Just like in 2008, yeah, during the stock market crisis, right? We had new players on the market somehow. And in COVID-19, those tech companies that have joined pharma have tripled their revenue in 1 year. 2020, companies, certain companies that I'm going to introduce you now, have tripled their revenue. Let me show them to you. We have some new pharma players on the block. We have Samsung, for example. We have Apple, we have Amazon, we have Google. They joined 10 years ago, my friends. But 10 years ago, we did not see them as a threat. Let me introduce them to you. What has happened? We have, for example, Samsung, best known for popular smartphones, appliances, televisions, right? They invested in 2019 1.5 billion into a new pharmaceutical plant. And they used it in 2020 together with Lilly to provide COVID-19 antibodies. And now they're an established pharmaceutical company. And this is something like 10 years ago, you know, we could read this in the news. Of course, if a company invests 1.5 billion and merges, you know, like with a strong leader, of course there are results. Of course there's something happening. We have, for example, Amazon. Yeah? Right now we're experiencing the Amazonization of pharma. Something we didn't think of, like 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago we were like, there's the pharma industries, right? There's the rules and regulations, right? Data is not that important, it's not at stake. We have the pharmacies out there, but Corona boosted Amazon first with money, and second of all, Amazon has acquired PillPack. And PillPack provides just in time your medication. In the United States, you can already consult your doctor online, and PillPack is sending the medication to the patient. PillPack is also producing the medicine. Another asset Amazon has is Alexa. Because the very first thing we do on Google if we don't feel well, we're typing in there, I have a headache, what should I do? I don't feel well, I have a muscle spasm here, I have this and that, my heart feels like this. One of the top searches on Google was when people had medical issues. And right now, people are talking to Alexa, I don't feel well anymore. I have a headache. Well, probably you didn't drink enough. Probably because you were just sleeping 4 hours on average the last days. Maybe you should go outside to the balcony. Should I schedule an online meeting with your doctor? We already have countries that are doing that. This is a threat right now that we're all facing. And also the ultra customization of medication. This is something we didn't think of 10 years ago. 10 years ago we thought, medication has its description and this and that. And now we're experiencing, there's pink medication, there's red medication, there's one with a skull, there's the Barbie version, there's this version, there's that version. And there are a lot of people that like that. And honestly, we could see that trend right down the road because we had ultra customization going on like crazy in nearly every industry in the world. Also, a new player we didn't think of is Apple. Apple also invested when others shortened their money, always. Apple has become a medical surveillance supporter. In 2020, 10 years ago, Apple has diagnosed, not a pharma company, Apple has diagnosed that 30 million people have heart diseases. And there's a few guys, I think in this conference that know about statistical process control and full control, right? Statistical process control is, for example, if I have diabetes, it's incurable, I have to check my blood, right? And when I check my blood, then I have an answer kind of like how my body was just 5 minutes ago. But the Apple Watch is giving us full control in certain areas. It gives us full control about our heart. It gives us full control of our blood sugar because it tells us right now how the blood sugar level is. And the Apple Watch, has this capability since 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, it only did this in the United States. We thought, okay, it's going to stay in the United States. And now it makes sense. A lot of you guys, right, wearing the Apple Watch. And I, for example, have an Apple Watch and I know the heartbeat of my dad. I know the blood sugar level of my dad. My dad is very old. And to me, it's important that I have this information. And we can see that Apple has become a service provider.
Once I collected my thoughts, I remembered my Apple Watch had the SOS feature.
After being rushed to the emergency room, I was diagnosed with a condition that was causing my liver, kidneys, and heart to start shutting down.
The integration of her glucose monitor with the Apple Watch lets us make sure her blood sugars don't go to dangerously low levels.
Had I not been wearing my Apple Watch, I never would have sought medical attention, which in turn saved my life.
One Alberta man last August says his Apple Watch alerted him to his dangerously fast heart rate, and that prompted him to realize he was having a heart attack.
So this is a trend that we're having right now everywhere, in every segment, in every business, in every company out there. We all tend to go to the service providers. Because the service providers, they can give us data, they can give us transparency, they can support us, they can enable us. So we're experiencing a huge shift. And that shift is from product to service provider. Going back from the product, leaving this product factory process scope and enhancing it to become useful for the patient, to provide data, use data as an asset. And that is something pharma still struggles, because if you want to change a company today, very often I still get calls like, hey Philip, we have to change an organization or or I'm a department leader, or I'm a CEO, or I'm just a middle manager. Let's change the company. Well, it takes years, guys. Everything else would be a lie. It takes years. And everything that I'm showing you right now should have been started quite a while ago. So for example, product medicine, right? Most pharma companies, their product is the medicine, the tablets, the medication. They have an old school management. What do I mean by old school management? Of course they have a lot of women now, in top management. Of course they have younger people in top management as well. They have people from versatile backgrounds. They have people, for example, that didn't study that much. But I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about, for example, the OKRs, vision-driven companies. Let's take SpaceX as an example. SpaceX has the vision to make life multiplanetary. This vision is much more encouraging than our EBIT will be next year 7%. To be very honest, every employee out there doesn't give a shit whether the EBIT is 6.8 or 7.2 or whatever, because most don't even understand it. And we all, everyone, you want to be part of something bigger. You want to do something that creates a certain impact. Every one of us has that desire. Everyone. This is something we humans have. This is why we jump on planes and fly somewhere, why we jump on boats and do stuff. We want to be part of something bigger, something that goes beyond our own profit, our own thing, because money doesn't make happy. And we have learned that in the last 10 years. And this is where vision-driven companies enable huge potential of their employees, and they make money as well. What else? Well, old IT. Of course, a lot of companies have new IT and this and that. Yeah, they have now SAP and whatever, new IT. But what I'm saying is being end-to-end digital, having new tablets, for example, being able, for example, not to work analog anymore at all, to have microservices out there. So there's a lot of stuff, like we didn't think really of 10 years ago, right? Platform solutions and so on. This is something like back then. We were like, okay, not that important. But those projects need a lot of time, a lot of investment. And of course, it needs people doing it. Because very often new software is not applied. And guess by whom? By top management. Because very often, if a company doesn't run well, it's the management. Usually the employees, they want to do stuff. It's the management usually that hinders the company from evolving. What else? No data sharing. It's so important that nowadays that we go away from file explorers and email and this and that, all the way to a software that can share data internally and externally. We're having this right now also in for example, other branches, to take an example, that share data beyond their borders to suppliers and so on. And it's so important that if a new department starts on something, like, okay, we have to do an FMEA on this and that, boom, I type in FMEA and boom, they're all the FMEAs. Yeah, we do this with this vaccine. Okay, boom, I have here 1,000 FMEAs. Yeah, I want to have the one with the RPZ, so and so. So it's very important that we're sharing data, and to share data, data needs to be cultivated. Also, no customer data. Apple has the customer data. Like very often when I have, I have many pharma companies I've taken care of, many pharma companies I've spoken to. Many. And very often they're telling me, we don't have customer data. Well, fucking Apple has customer data. They're also a pharma company now. Google is now a pharma company. They're having customer data. Amazon is having customer data. But they're starting different. They're not having the organization and start to get the data. They're having the data and then they build the organization. And of course, the very important thing about these companies that are ruling right now the world, they don't have legacy burdens. What do I mean by legacy burdens? I've just been 2 weeks ago with very often right now I'm having top management that do video statements and so on. So I went to a top manager, and first of all, the speech was, when I saw the speech, I was like, oh my God, he really wants to say that. And second of all, he had a very dirty jacket. So he was standing there with a speech he didn't feel familiar with, and he had his dirty jacket. And I wanted to talk to him, and the people in the room could see that I wanted to address this to him, and everyone was like, oh my God, don't talk to him, and not like that way, and not that informal, and and you have to be kind of, like, guys, we're not in the mid-age anymore. We can be informal, and we can be still respectful. And what everyone out there really wants is clarity and truth. And I mean, how embarrassing is it for a top manager to hold a speech where everyone thinks it's not his best speech, but no one tells him? How embarrassing is it to hold a speech with a dirty jacket and no one tells him? Be clear and transparent. Call a spade a spade. Talk to people and look at the organization. If there's something wrong, then, raise your voice. And also, this is something the customers want right now. The customers have changed. They want to be enabled. What does it mean enabled? Of course, they want to have knowledge. They want to gain knowledge. They don't want to go always just, like on YouTube and find out. They like that companies informs them, about certain things. How do you inform the customer? How do you enable your customer to do things? Other than having, someone from YouTube explaining to them how they can use the medication, for example. They want real personalized medicine. And it starts all the way that I get the right level of medicine, all the way to that I get it at the right moment, at the right time, and of course personalized. The companies that are selling right now, to the ladies, more female medicine, making more money than the ones that don't. Same with furniture, same with cars, same with clothes, same with everything out there. Body sensors. That's something that's very important. We want to know how we're doing. Of course, there are a few people out there always that don't want to know what's going on in their body, but a lot of people want to know what's going on in their body. And that's why body sensors have become a huge asset for the customers. What else? 24/7 support. If we have an issue, we want to have support right now in everything. And we're doing that since ages, right? If you want to build a garden, if you want to do something and you struggle, what do? You go on YouTube. If you have an issue or so, you go on Google. If you have a company that provides something to you, and I can tell you this as a consultant, for example. If I have a problem, if my customer has a problem, he contacts me at any time. Same with car makers. You can open the top console up there and people are calling that emergency department to ask how to open the glove. And also, this is a trend we're experiencing right now in pharma. People want to be supported 24/7 when they have the problem. And they're using e-commerce now. This is something PillPack and Amazon has taught us. So it's very important for every manager out there that we don't prefer to stay on our preset course no matter what. Real management has to ask, what are the biggest problems we have over short, mid or long term, and what could be my contribution? That is real management. And I would like to remind yourself how you got here in the first place. This is about tactics, yes. This is about knowledge, yes. This is about ideas, yes. But foremost, it's about you guys. To change things, you have to do new things. Many people out there, they do the things in the same, I would say, in the same different way. Just listening to a different voice, listening to different ebooks or so on, and then do the same things in different ways. And most of us are doing the same hustle with a different disguise. If you want new shit, you have to do new shit. And I would like to show you a little bit of what has changed companies in the past. First, data. Data has changed companies. And data is everything that directly or indirectly influences your product. Everything you hear, everything you see, everything you feel, everything you observe, and of course everything you record is data. This presentation right now is data. And cultivated data has become the new gold rush. I want to show you an example. 10 years ago, a customer of mine, Electrolux, was using data from Amazon, feedback from platforms, from forums, and so on, and was assigning that feedback to departments. This is how they use the voice of consumer. This is something the car industry is doing since 2 decades, using data and assigning it, the voice of the customer data, and assigning it to the departments. What have we learned as well? We have become much more aware about the hippos. What is a hippo? A hippo is anything else than really useful. And this is the most important what managers should be. The most important thing what managers should be is to be useful. A hippo is a highest paid person's opinion. Yeah, that manager that pops into a meeting or into a project at the very last time and wants to change everything. We all the humans, we have a natural tendency to look up to the authority in the room. We have a natural tendency to be intimidated by the authority in the room. Whether it's because of their status in hierarchy, whether it's of their level or their pay scale or some other reason. That's a natural tendency that we have created. And the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion, is using this weak situation that everyone has respect and is doing it and not questioning it and making a guts-based decision. But decisions should be based on data. Decisions should be never been based just on a gut feeling. And that's why I encourage you, to challenge or kill the highest paid person's opinion. Management is there to be useful. There's also the zebra, by the way. The zebra is even worse. The zebra is zero evidence, but really arrogant. There are managers out there that are zebras. Zebras are the people who see things in their own universe. And they question science which undermines their beliefs. As an example, but it's not always just managers, right? I mean, a lot of individuals are also zebras. Sometimes they're just in a certain area in zebra. For example, a public policy poll in 2015 asked American voters if they support bombing Agrabah. Half of the people that have been asked supported this, that Agrabah is being bombed. But Agrabah doesn't exist. Only in a Disney movie from 1992. And that is, for example, a zebra. Not really listening and not really paying attention to all the details. Just having something bombing, something that's, of course, do that, yeah? And that is so important. Because when faced with data, they question everything that doesn't undermine their opinion. They're much harder to deal with than the hippos. Guys, so it's a zoo out there. And that's very important that we challenge each other. And it doesn't matter, ignore the hierarchical level, that we challenge each other with facts, having courageous conversations. Because I know this is a very strong statement I'm usually having, but I really believe in this. I think, and from the coachings that have taught me, and I told a lot of CEOs, a lot of COOs, a lot of top managers, a lot of exits, a lot. Of course, if you want your manager to be cool, like wearing chucks and I don't know, like who to call, right? We're all kids in a grown body. We look mature, we look author, we look dangerous sometimes, we look that we know everything, but inside there's a lot of fear, inside there are a lot of doubts, there's seeking attention, and there's the desire for love in every one of us. Sounds super hippie, but it's the truth. And that's why I'm saying at least be useful in your job, yeah? As a spouse, as a friend. And we have learned that in the last 10 years, to challenge the management, to remind them and say, look, we have to be useful here. What's the vision that drives us? What's the data we base that on? Be a data hero. Anyway, you should always be a hero. But of course, now as we understand that data is the new gold rush, it's important that we're a data hero. Lead by example, yeah? Don't have your secretary editing your PowerPoint, yeah? Add the screenshots by yourself to your email, yeah? Schedule team sessions by yourself, yeah? If you lack of skills, get them. Use Microsoft Surface, walk the talk. Yeah? Spread infos on SharePoint. Yeah? How many top managers have been on SharePoint? Right? To share informations or your intranet, Make a podcast. You know, in so many meetings right now, even I have some managers, they have the courage that they record the coaching and they put it online because they want to show the people, look, I'm also just learning. I'm always open for learning. Make a video message. You know, there's so much stuff that you can do, as an example, to be a data hero. And that's just the very start. What else? We have learned that a global network exceeds a lot. And for a global network, this goes beyond video conferences. This goes beyond spreading infos in English. This is, first off, being on eye height with everyone. Whether it's a supplier, whether they're from Mexico, from Greek, from German, from Japan, doesn't matter who. Doesn't matter which hierarchical level. Everyone, you know, knowledge is coming from everywhere in the organization right now. Everywhere. So it's very important that we collaborate. Make use like a swarm and fire and forget. So, you know, it's very important that some departments have the liberty to do something and not being challenged and being questioned and being answered because we all do mistakes. And it's very important, the mistake culture, you know, like to laugh about mistakes sometimes. Of course, there's severe mistakes, but most mistakes in a company are usually just political correctness mistake because someone could feel offended, someone has a problem, and then, you know, like in the end, there's huge drama. But it's not a real mistake to the consumer, customer, or to rules and regulations out there, outside the borders of the company. How can we transform this cash cow further? By spreading the word. Share, 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 share. It's so important, my friends, to share. Very often, you know, like when I'm in a company, like for example, what I just mentioned, you know, like to share a coaching, to share a video conference, to share details. Everyone is like, oh my God, you know, we have to polish this. We can't share this presentation at this status. We cannot do this, we cannot do that. Because most of us always thought they need a platform first and then they need the content. But a platform is for most content. And we have also learned this in the past, that people consume content. They don't consume the platform. And they're willing to use every platform out there that delivers the right content. And that's why we have to share. That's very important because right now we're working much more remote. We're working 24/7, right? Everyone has their own preferences when to work. We have to exchange ideas. Do not rely on top management. And please, everyone that knows me a bit closer, I'm not against top management. I'm not against senior management. I'm not against execs because these are my, you know, most valuable customers. They are the ones that sort of can change the whole organization pretty fast. But the thing is, the nowadays world has become so complex that top management cannot make any decision in this complex world. And true managers hardly make decisions, right? They ensure the right person to make the decision that is good for the overall company. One example, what have we learned like in the last 10 years? If we compare, for example, mail, you know, like remember when mail came up, right? A lot of emails have been sent 10 years ago. We were sending lots and lots of emails. But what is email? Email is a letter, right? We have an intro, how are you doing? We're doing on a project, and then we have a task, and you know, and there's so much stuff in an email. And for example, many companies just banned, you know, like emails if it's not important to last for over than 50 days. Use direct message if you want to shoot a message right away. And this, for example, a top manager cannot make this decision for the whole company because in every environment is different. In some environment, you might need the email because you're communicating with the customer, and you always need that. So a top manager cannot make a decision for the whole organization. Ban junk. Guys, I encourage you to be informal. And very often I hear, oh, you know, if you're informal, then it gets disrespectful. No. The people that get the most respect are the ones that we love, are our friends, are the ones that we're close with, right? Are the ones where I can be myself without disguising myself. Because how nice would it be if we all work with friends? And you can create this environment in your department. And you can also ban other junk. Yeah? PowerPoint, ban it. Excel, ban it. Yeah? There's so much stuff, but the most important is to ban junk. Feedback, guys. Courageous conversations. Calling a spade, speaking with clarity and truth. But of course, add, may I, add, hello, add, goodbye, add, what's your opinion? But in between, have a courageous conversation. Have fun, guys. Can you imagine? Since so many years, 87% of all employees don't love what they're doing. I mean, can you imagine that? That 87% of employees are striving for the weekend. Your guys, if you have a team out of 100 people, if you have a team out of 10 people, 8.7 people are looking forward to see the weekend because they're having a bad time. Guess whose fault is it? Management. Work should be fun, guys. Most people are just working, you know, like according to the instructions. Like, okay, you place that here, yeah, done. What's next? Gone. Let's get going. When is Friday? Woo! Friday is coming. This is how most people live their lives. And that's our responsibility. We can see this if you see at SpaceX, for example, in my other presentations, you can see how people are celebrating, having fun. And I mean, I'm talking about real fun. You know, like for example, a Christmas event should never be political correctness and there's a political attendance time. Okay, how long should I stay now at a Christmas party in order to have this political correct attendance time? Well, then, you know, like then there's something wrong. And this is where you should have courageous conversation. Because if you have a courageous conversation with a lot of clarity and truth, everyone will say, you know, like, honestly, boss, you're not that funny, and the events, they're like a bit stiff, and we would have much more fun by doing this or that. This is something we have learned as well, that many companies do have a lot of fun, because fun is the enabler, is the booster for everything. Then, when you did all that, then start with optimizing IT. There's so much stuff that you can do, influencing suppliers by saying, look, actually, I would like to have this and that changed. So many companies have changed their IT, you know, like, and co-shaped it because a lot of people have said, we need to change this, right? Because they raised their voice. They were not just like, oh, it should be changed. No, actually, they were taking action and saying, look, this should be changed. The whole department here, 400 people want this to be changed. That's not a rebellion. No, it's speaking clarity and truth. Local OKRs. You know, if your company doesn't have your vision, if your nation doesn't have your vision, if your continent doesn't have a vision, what holds you away from having a vision? I'm having a vision. I'm leading companies to a circular economy. And even with my heavy metal band, I'm having that topic in the lyrics, in the songs. Of course, a lot of people laugh about me, but I don't, you know, like, I don't care whether they laugh about me or not. I'm having that vision, I'm serving it. And then, guys, then it's time to start with the other stuff that you have in your head. It's so important to open your mind, my friends. It's so important. And this is something that is really strange to me because, you know, like, we're struggling not like since 10 years here in Europe, right? I mean, this is like since a decade or two ago. We're struggling and the barriers are getting higher and higher and higher. And when the barriers seem so huge, one should expect that management is brave, leads by example, and makes bolder models, bolder suggestions. But exactly the opposite is the case. Whether in politics, whether in organizations, when the walls shake, everyone retreats in their comfort zone. And why do we love our comfort zone? Well, because comfort zone is our home, right? We feel comfortable here. There's nothing we need to change. We read maybe an ebook, we get influenced by this and that, but we continue to do the same shit just in a different way. And nothing has changed there. Because from there, from the comfort zone, we fear change. And I encourage you, every one of you, to leave the comfort zone. Break out of the comfort zone, because this is where you get inner growth. What happens when you leave the comfort zone? To be able to go out to the comfort zone, first off, you have to do new shit. And I'm talking about new shit, not doing the same way in a different way. Doing something completely the opposite. But we're scared. Why are we scared? There are two fears. There's the fear of pain, you know, a real fear, for example, a fear of death, fear of injuries and stuff. There's real fear, and there's fictional fear. But in our head, 99% of our time, we're scared of a fictional fear. So what's a fictional fear? If I make a stupid decision and I'm standing there, you know, like everyone's like, oh my God, you made a stupid decision, yeah? If people question me, if people have doubts on me, this is all fictional fear. It's only generated in our mind. which has nothing to do with reality. The fear, for example, of showing your real self. Yeah? Well, the worst thing that can happen is that you're rejected by the people who don't show themselves. Because the ones that show themselves, they will give you respect. Why we're not doing it? Because most people don't show themselves. And I encourage you, go out in a fear zone. We have a problem solver in here, the best problem solver on earth. And that brain wants what? Problems. And what happens when we face problems? This is the secret weapon against fear. We make experiences. We're having success. And if we're not having success, at least we're taking action. We're moving. The brain is a problem solver, a masterpiece of solving issues. Gerald Hüther, one of the greatest neurologists that we have in Germany, says, if I have one wish for you, it's problems, because this is what we need. Well, we think, what do I have to do if I don't have problems anymore? But people miss the core. The core is that this thing is made to solve issues. And then we exist in this new reality where we suddenly see, oh my God, I've learned a lot. Now I have a new comfort zone. And in this new reality we're right now, that's very similar, because the last 10 years we also went out of our comfort zone, right? There was a lot of fear in the last 10 years. And now we can see that the individuated power of brains offer possibilities beyond our imagination. Like we're moving away from the leadership in the past, where a few on the top using authority and explanatory and justification, making decision. And we now find ourselves in leadership and knowledge emerging from all levels of the organization. From people leading with a future and a vision in mind. And that is something, my friends, that is the main question. Do we want to chase a pig through town? Scaring people, or focusing on priorities that are not really priorities, that just confirm our already dialed in preset course? Or do we want to implement real transformation? Because everything, my friends, is a question of your perspective. Everything. Your knowledge, everything, all the knowledge, all the experiences have brought you here in the first place. So every decision in your life has brought you to this experience today, to this event, to this spot where you're sitting right now. And you have learned a lot to come here. But you as an individual, you don't exist. Why? Because your knowledge is borrowed. If I would take away your knowledge, everything that you learn from others, you would not be able to stand by yourself. So everything is borrowed. Also, Earth doesn't exist, isolated from everything. We're all on a joint journey. And we always should question perspective. Some, for example, they think about, like, how can I protect myself? Some are like, okay, I have to protect my family. And we hear that very often. Oh, my family, I have to, my family, my son. Some protect their neighborhood. Some protect their town. Some, just look at the country or the nation. But what most really forget every day, we're all sitting on this giant rock in space that follows sun at a speed of 2.5 million kilometers. And sun is traveling in 226 million years around the Milky Way. Can you imagine that? None of you has bought a ticket for this ride because your parents have signed you up for this without even asking, right? And if you look now at the screen, you're seeing that approximately 100 years long journey through universe. And this is, in an ideal world, your life. So it's the trip of your life. All the decisions, all the experiences you've taken brought you here in the first place. So make use of it. and gentlemen, welcome back to 2020. How cool is that? We've just been in the future, we have seen what's going on, and now we can change everything.